And we are back. Welcome to the final European prediction video of the week. It is now time for my Europa League predictions. Now, obviously, yesterday we did my Europa Conference League predictions, which covered the 2 games yesterday and all of the remaining 16 games taking place today. So if you haven't done so already, please do consider checking that video out. It'll be available at the top of your screen right now and was obviously the last video posted on this channel. And what an unbelievable week of European action we have already had in the Champions League. Probably last night more entertaining than what we saw on the opening night of this week, but some of the results last night. Atletico losing 3-0, and then Atletico losing 4-0, and then Real Madrid and Bayern Munich both losing 1-0 away to Lille and Aston Villa respectively. And they weren't the only upsets that took place last night as well. An absolutely unbelievable night of Champions League action. But like I said, we're not here to talk about the Champions League. Today, we're here to talk about Match Day 2 in the Europa League. So if you haven't done so already, please do consider dropping a like on this video if you do enjoy all of my prediction videos. And subscribe to the channel if you're new around here. We're going to be covering all of the Nations League games once again next week. And of course, we will be covering the Premier League games taking place this weekend in tomorrow's video. And then we get to do this all over again in just 2 weeks' time when we get back to club football after the international break. So make sure you are subscribed so you don't miss out on any of the action. Before we get into it, let's see how we got on last week. It was 10 out of 18 in the Europa League, thanks to that incredible last-minute winner from Braga from the penalty spot, which meant that we just nipped ourselves over 50%, otherwise it would have been 9 out of 18. And we did get one correct score as well. That was the game between Roma and Bilbao, which I accurately predicted to be 1-1. So without any further ado, we have got 18 matches to cover today in the Europa League. This page will cover all 9 of the early kickoffs, then the next page will cover the 9 later kickoffs. So without any further ado, let's get straight into it. The first game today is Ferencváros taking on Tottenham Hotspur. Now, for the first few of these matches we have to cover today, we're going to be talking a lot about suspensions. And it is Spurs that have the first suspension of the day. They had Dragusin sent off after 8 minutes against Karabag, but then still won 3-0 with 10 men. So that kind of proves how easy this competition could end up being for Spurs. They do also now have Heung-min Son and Udogie injured for this one. Although, again, against a side like Ferencváros, who did lose to Anderlecht in their first match of this tournament, I don't think it's going to be too difficult for Spurs. They're also defending brilliantly at the moment, so I'm not going to give Ferencváros a goal. I'm going to go for a nice, comfortable 2-0 win to Tottenham to start off today's video. Second game sees Hoffenheim taking on Dynamo Kiev. Hoffenheim drawing with Michelin in the Matchday 1 game. Dynamo losing 3-0 at home to Lazio in their first match. So not the best start for them. The only thing about Hoffenheim you have to consider is even though they did get that draw last week, they've lost all 4 of their last Bundesliga matches. So they're not on a good run of form at the moment. Dynamo have Bragaru suspended, another team with a suspension here. And both sides are carrying injuries going into this one. Most notably for Hoffenheim, it is Andrej Kramaric, the Croatian. However, at home to Dynamo Kiev, I would still expect a Bundesliga side to come out on top. Certainly one that's got themselves into Europe. Well, I'm going to err on the side of caution. I'm going to say watch this space because I'm only going to go for a 2-1 win to Hoffenheim. I do believe that if Dynamo turn up, they could certainly get a result the form that Hoffenheim are in. That then brings us to Dynamo Kiev's victors last time out. It is Lazio at home to Nice. Nice drew 1-1 at home to Real Sociedad in their Matchday 1 game. So you'd have to say that Lazio are carrying the momentum coming into this one. They do have a suspension themselves, Lazio, with Noslin getting sent off against Dynamo. But he wasn't going to be someone who would have particularly started this match anyway, so that's not really a concern for them. What is a concern for Nice is that Moffi and Laborde are both unavailable for them, meaning they don't really have any senior strikers available to them. They do have players that can play up front, but no sort of like recognised senior established striker available for Nice at the moment. So with that said, and with how well Lazio played against Dinamo last time out, I'm going to go for a 2-0 win for Lazio in Italy tonight. That then brings us to Maccabi Tel Aviv. They are taking on FC Michelin. Again, as we've already mentioned, Michelin drew 1-1 with Hoffenheim in their first opener. And, well, again, it's just all about suspensions. You have got 3 suspensions going into this match. Kanichowski and Asante are both suspended for Maccabi, and Osorio is suspended for Michelin. So Already, again, we've just got so many suspensions going into this game. Maccabi, of course, were the side that were on the receiving end of that 95th minute winner from Braga in the first game. So they've definitely got some merit coming into this one. And then Midtjylland are a team that are absolutely stacked full of injuries at the moment, although not too many to first-team players. The only real first-team absentee is going to be Oliver Sorensen. The rest of their midfielders and defenders that are injured are all players that would normally be bench players anyway. So it shouldn't affect their starting lineup too much. But I think, again, this is a really, really tough one to call. I'm going to go for a 2-2 draw in this. Midtjylland are always involved in high-scoring matches. And to be fair, so are Maccabi. So I'm going to go for a 2-2 draw. I really can't decide between these two teams right now. If you had to tell me to pick someone to win it, I would go for Midtjylland. But yeah, not sure on this one at all. That then brings us to Olympiacos taking on Sporting Braga. I don't know how many times I'll bang this drum, but Olympiacos, of course, are the Europa Conference League champions from last season. And, of course, they are taking on Braga, who, as we just mentioned, got that 95th minute winner against Maccabi Tel Aviv last time out. Olympiacos were defeated 2-0 by Lyon in their group opener, but at home, Olympiacos are now unbeaten in 10 matches. So, again, it's another really tough one to call. It's why we only got 10 out of 18 last week. There's not much to split a lot of these Europa League sides, and this is another prime example of that. I'm going to go for a 2-1 win to Olympiacos. Again, that is me erring on the side of caution. I believe all three results are possible, but Olympiacos, especially at home, are a side to fear, and I do think they're going to end up beating their Portuguese opponents tonight. That brings us to Karabag taking on Malmo. Now, again, as we've already mentioned, Karabag were on the receiving end of that 3-0 defeat to Tottenham, with Tottenham only having 10 men from as early as 8 minutes into the match, whereas Malmo were on the receiving end of a 2-0 defeat at home to Rangers and go into this match with a whole host of injury problems themselves. So, the way I see it, again, it's another really tough one to call, but I think Karabag just have that little bit extra experience in these sort of scenarios, and they are the home side, so I'm going to go for a 3-1 win to them. They're going to be looking to bounce back from that defeat to Spurs, and I think they're going to do it at home to a Malmo side that, like I said, weren't even able to get a result at home to Rangers, and I don't think Rangers are particularly good this season. That brings us to Real Sociedad, who take on Anderlecht. Sociedad getting the 1-1 draw away at Nice, which I said at the time was a fantastic result. And they backed it up by then beating Valencia 3-0 at home, should I say, in La Liga this weekend. Anderlecht were able to beat Ferencváros, but then could only manage a draw in the Belgian League this weekend and are carrying a lot of injuries, most notably to the likes of Jan Vertonghen and Thorgan Hazard. So it's not looking great for them. They also have Angulo suspended. I just think Sociedad at home, they've managed to get a good result against Nice last week. They've got a really good result in the Liga at the weekend, and they're the home side going into this one. I know Anderlecht won last week, but I think this is a step too far for them. I'm going to go for a 2-0 win to Real Sociedad in this one. That brings us to RFS of Latvia taking on Galatasaray, of course, the big Turkish side. RFS were on the receiving end of a 4-1 defeat to FCSB in Matchday 1, whereas Galatasaray were able to beat PAOK 3-1 last week. However, they then drew at home at the weekend in the Super League and have now got Osimhen injured up to November. I say this with a pinch of salt because I said yesterday that Harry Kane was going to be out for at least a month, and then he played against Aston Villa last night. So who knows? Maybe Osimhen will also make a miraculous recovery and play tonight. Musglera is also still suspended for them in goal, but realistically, Galatasaray against RFS, it really should be a comfortable win for Galatasaray. I'm only going to go for 3-1. I would have gone for back-to-back 4-1 defeats for RFS, but like I said, with Osimhen injured, it does slightly neutralise Galatasaray's attack, although still have the likes of Icardi available to them. Should be a comfortable win for them. The final of the early games in today's Europa League action sees Slavia Prague taking on Ajax. And, well, if we're going to talk about injuries, then this is the game to talk about it. Ajax have no less than 10 players unavailable for them, including the likes of Jordan Henderson, Bergwijs and Wout Weghorst, whereas Slavia have 7 injuries going into this one, including their star striker, the Slovakian Ivan Šranc. Remember him from the Euros? I know I certainly do. However, he could be available to make his first appearance for a little while tonight, but I don't know. It's a really tough one again. Both of these sides won a match day one. Slavia won 2-0. Ajax won 4-0. But I just think, again, on paper, Ajax are just going to be the better team here. Both of these sides are normally involved in very high-scoring matches. So with that said, I am going to go for a 3-2 win to Ajax. But again, watch this space. Slavia at home, definitely capable of producing a result. I just think the Dutch side are just going to be the stronger, even with their injury problems. So that is going to round off all of the first parts of the Europa League action today. Take your final look at them right now before they disappear. And we move on to the 8 o'clock kickoffs, which I'm going to start covering right now. And we kick off the later kickoffs with Athletic Bilbao taking on AZ Alkmaar. And what's the word of the day? It is injuries, because we have even more injuries in this one for Athletic. It is Ander Herrera who has picked up an injury, and Unai Simon is still missing for them going into this one. However, the Williams brothers are now fully fit and available for this. And as I predicted last time out, Bilbao did get the 1-1 draw away at Roma in match day 1, whereas AZ were only able to see off Iceborg 3-2 in their match day 1 game, and then lost at home to Utrecht at the weekend. So it's not been a real good week for AZ Alkmaar, and this is a really, really tough fixture going to Bilbao to try and get a result today. For me, I think it's a little bit of a step too far for them, and I just think Bilbao, especially at home, will definitely be getting the result here. I am going to go for a 3-1 win to Bilbao, but who knows? Like I say, AZ have had a very good season up until the last few days. They might be able to bounce back, but I do think it'd be a real shock not to see Bilbao getting the win in this one. On to two sides that really did disappoint on match day 1. Besiktas were on the receiving end of a 4-0 defeat to Ajax on match day 1, whereas Eintracht Frankfurt drew 3-3 at home to Victoria Pilsen. So both sides are going to be very, very disappointed with that. However, Besiktas currently sit 3rd in the Super League in Turkey with a game in hand, which if they win it significantly enough, would see them go top of the Turkish Super League this season. And after Frankfurt's win at the weekend, they have gone 2nd in the Bundesliga. So domestically, both of these sides are flying. In Europe, both have made a really poor start. For Besiktas, they have Ciro Immobile available for them. And for Frankfurt, Trapp is still out injured in goal. So again, I'm going to err on the side of caution in this one. I think it's going to be a really tough one to call. Both of these sides like to be involved in high-scoring matches. So I'm going to go for a 3-2 win to Frankfurt. I still think on paper, the German side should be the stronger of the two. But honestly, this is one of their matches where the scoreline could be absolutely anything. Next up, we have the aforementioned Elfsborg, who obviously lost 3-2 to AZ Alkmaar, taking on Roma, who got the 1-1 draw with Bilbao last time out. Arguably, both sides probably happy-ish, I'd say. I think Roma probably would have expected to beat Bilbao last time out. But like I said, I predicted a 1-1 draw, so I wasn't really too surprised to see that happen. And Elfsborg getting a really good result. I think a defeat, even though it was only 3-2, I think that's a good defeat, should I say, for Elfsborg in match day 1. They did get themselves Holman suspended for this match against Roma. And to be honest, Roma also have no real injury concerns going into this one. So could be a tricky night for Roma tonight, but I'm still going to go for a 2-1 win for them. But that is, like I say, that is with caution. I always say if I only go for a 1-goal margin, that is because I do think the other results are possible. But I do think Roma should definitely be considered the favourites going into this one, even though they are travelling to Sweden here. That then brings us on to the game that I really don't want to have to talk about tonight. But unfortunately, not only do I have to talk about it now, I quite literally do have to talk about it tonight, because we will obviously be doing a post-match reaction to this. I'm wearing my United shirt once again because I never stopped believing in the club. But we are travelling to Portugal tonight to play against FC Porto. And even though Porto did lose to Bodo Glimt in their match day 1 opener, which has to be talked about, by the way, Bodo Glimt had 10 men for 40 minutes in that match and then made it 3-1 with 10 men before Porto pulled it back to 3-2, and that's how it finished. So Porto not looking too good themselves at the moment. However, it is worth noting that Porto did make significant changes to their starting lineup for that game. They disrespected Bodo Glimt and they were punished for it. Manchester United, as we all know, drew 1-1 with Twente, then got absolutely embarrassed by Tottenham at the weekend. So back-to-back Europa League opponents for Manchester United going into this game, and they've performed very poorly at home to both. Now travel away to Porto. But fear not, everybody. Harry Maguire has travelled to Portugal and could return to the side tonight. Look, realistically, the way United are playing, I just don't see them getting a result here. I really don't. Porto are a very strong team, especially at home. They're going to be looking for a response to the defeat to Bodo Glimt. Obviously, United are going to be looking for a response to how they performed against Twente and how they performed against Spurs. But we just can't put the ball in the net at the moment. And I just think against a side that are as good as Porto are at home, I don't see us scoring tonight either. I'm going for 2-0 Porto, and I'm really gutted to have to do that as a Manchester United fan. And I hope I'm wrong. I hope I'm sitting here in 12 hours' time celebrating a Manchester United victory. But as things stand right now, I have to be honest on this prediction series. And I just think Porto are going to beat us tonight. That brings us to FC Twente, the side who did draw at Old Trafford last time out. And they are taking on Fenerbahce, which they beat Union Saint-Gilloise in their last game, it has to be said. And then both of these sides backed up their performances in midweek last week by getting wins in their respective competitions at the weekend. Twente are now 4th in the Eredivisie. Fenerbahce are now 2nd in the Super League. But as we mentioned, if Besiktas win their game in hand, they will jump above Fenerbahce there. What is really interesting going into this one is that these two sides actually played each other in Europa Conference League qualifying last year, and it was a 6-1 aggregate win for Fenerbahce, including winning 1-0 away at Twente. Now, Osayi Samuel is suspended for Fenerbahce going into this, but he doesn't start anyway. He came off the bench last time out and then got himself sent off. So that's not really a concern for them. Neither of these sides have any real injury concerns. And like I say, both sides are playing really well at the moment. So I really can't split them. I'm going to go for a 2-2 draw. This is going to be one of them games where I honestly think it's going to be 2-1, one way or the other. Or I've just gone for that bog standard 2-2 draw, smack down the middle. Could be a great game, this one. I really can't split them. If I'm going to pick a favourite, I think just based on what happened last year, I would go for Fenerbahce. But Twente are playing much better this year. Definitely capable of getting the win themselves. That then brings us to PAOK, who take on FCSB, who I now know were the former Steaua Bucharest. And thank you to all of you that commented that on my last Europa League video. I am now obviously up to date with that. PAOK lost to Galatasaray, then more crucially, lost the Thessaloniki derby at the weekend at home, which is a shocking defeat for PAOK, considering how strong they normally are in their domestic league. Whereas, of course, we already spoke about FCSB beating RFS 4-1 last time out. So there's definitely precedent here to see that FCSB can get a result here, but on paper, with the quality available to them and being at home, PAOK should win this game. So I'm going to go for 2-1 to PAOK. But I am, like I say, 2-1. I'm giving FCSB a chance. I really think they could produce something here. But if PAOK turn up, which I would still expect them to do so, it should still be a pretty comfortable win for them. But if FCSB can get a result tonight, I'll definitely show them a lot more respect going into the remainder of this tournament. That then brings us to Rangers taking on Lyon with just 3 games to go tonight. And we got Rangers winning 2-0 against Malmo away, which I still can't believe that happened. And then Lyon got the 2-0 win over Olympiacos, as we also mentioned earlier. Both them won at the weekend, which, I mean, to be fair, for Rangers isn't much of a surprise. For Lyon, it was a good result for them at the weekend. What's really interesting going into this one is that the bookmakers have Rangers as favourites, and that baffles me. It really does, because on paper, I think nearly every single player in Lyon's squad would get in Rangers' starting lineup, let alone lineup for lineup. I think Lyon, realistically, should definitely be winning this one. But European nights at Ibrox, they are very, very good Rangers. But I just can't do it. I just can't do it. It's like, who do I hate more, Scotland or France? Probably just about Scotland. I'm going to go 2-1 to Lyon. Realistically, Lyon should win this easy. I really do think Lyon should win this easy. And if I am massively disrespecting Rangers, I will, like I say, as always, tip my hat and say fair play to Rangers if they do get a result tonight. But that is exactly what I said before the Borussia Dortmund-Celtic game the other night. And then Dortmund won 7-1. So I think Lyon should be winning this one pretty comfortably. But we'll see. If Rangers produce it, fair play to them. 2 matches to go then now, and we start off with Union Saint-Gilloise, and they taking on Bodo Glimt. Union, as we've already discussed, lost 2-1 to Fenerbahce. However, that one was a 93rd minute consolation whilst they had 10 men, and Bodo Glimt, as we've already spoken about, beat Porto 3-2 with 10 men after going down to 10 men at 2-1 and then going 3-1 up. That obviously means that they each have a player suspended for this one. Kevin McAllister is going to be home alone, whilst Mata is going to be suspended for Bodo Glimt. Hopefully you spotted my little joke in there. As well as there's still another suspension in Fusenei, still suspended for Union after getting sent off earlier on as well. Both of these sides are carrying injuries as well going into this one. And if any of you are FC fans or EAFC fans from this year or last year, the absolute iconic image of El Abdellaoui, he's injured. He's injured for Bodo Glimt. The guy with the sunglasses, he's injured for Bodo Glimt. He's not going to be available for tonight's game. What's also worth noting is that Union are not playing very well in the Belgian league at the moment. They're only 8th. Yes, they may have a couple of games in hand due to playing in this competition, but it's not been happening for them so far. And Bodo Glimt, as I've spoken about, got a result against Porto last week. So I really wanted to give Bodo the win. I did. I really wanted to give Bodo the win. But I've gone for a 2-2 draw. I couldn't remember what I'd gone for. We're at the 17th prediction. I thought I might have gone for 2-1 to Bodo Glimt. But I've gone for the 2-2 draw. I think both sides are going to be scoring this one. I really believe that all 3 results are possible. But again, I always say it when I go for a draw. If you ask me who I think could edge it, I would say right now, Bodo Glimt are the side that could edge it. And then finally, we have Victoria Pilsen taking on Ludogorets. Now, as we've already spoken about, as we covered all the other games earlier, Pilsen were able to get a 3-3 draw away at Eintracht Frankfurt, which is an incredible result for them, whereas Ludogorets lost 2-0 at home to Slavia Prague. So you would think the obvious result here is to just say Victoria Pilsen get the win, which, to be fair, I will say now, is exactly what I've gone for. However, there could be an opportunity for some revenge tonight as well, because these two met all the way back in 2016, and on that occasion, over the 2 legs, it was Ludogorets who won 4-2, winning 2-0 at home and then drawing 2-2 away in Pilsen, which meant that Ludogorets actually eliminated Victoria Pilsen from the Europa League in that time in 2016. So an opportunity for some long held back revenge for Victoria Pilsen tonight. And like I say, the way these two sides started this competition, I would expect that to be the case. And that is going to be that. We have been talking for a solid 20 minutes once again. Those are your predictions for the final 9 games in the Europa League. Feel free to jump back to double check what I went for in the opening 9 games. Thank you very much for all of the support you have given this series over the course of this week and last week. Best believe we're bringing it back once again in a couple of weeks' time. But don't forget to get yourself subscribed to the channel so you don't miss out on all of the UEFA Nations League predictions that we have got coming up for you over the course of the next couple of weeks as well. Thank you very much for watching as always. Let me know all your thoughts down in the comment section below. I'll be back tonight for my reaction to Porto Man United, and then back once again tomorrow morning for the next match day in the Premier League. So thank you very much for watching and listening once again. I will see you later, and I'll see you tomorrow.